All right, we are covering chapter 5, section 3, proving triangles congruent by SAS. SAS stands for side, angle, side. We know what sides are, we know what angles are. So you're just identifying it. This can get confusing if you're not really paying attention what's congruent. Remember, it has to be congruent. My side has to be congruent, my angle has to be congruent, and my next side has to be congruent in order for it to be a side, angle, side triangle. So that's what we're trying to find for this lesson. You guys are having a quiz on Wednesday. All right, so looking at this, included sides. Okay, the side between the given angles, the sides between the given angles. So example, you have, let me change this to white, that little line at the top is for the side. Example AB is included between angle A and angle B. So we should know where our angles are. So this is angle A, this is angle B, and we're specifically talking about this side. Okay, so it's included between those angles. So I'm going to highlight them. Angle A and angle B. And this is the side we're talking about. Okay, so it's between two given angles. So that's an included side. Now we're going to look at included angle. The angle where the given sides meet. So example, angle C. Angle C is between side AC, and I'm going to do this one in green. Here's AC and CB, and now we're talking about the angle. Okay, so now we know included sides and included angles. So this one is, basically it's a side between two angles. And this one is an angle between two sides that make an angle. Okay, we know how to find angles, we know how to find sides. Now it's just determining what it's between. All right, looking at this one, side, angle, side. Now we're trying to kind of figure out how we're writing this. Your order matters, okay? The order, side, angle, side matters. It has to be side first, then your angle, then your side. So if two sides, all right, now, if two sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to two sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Okay, so important information that I would highlight. If two sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to two sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to have two triangles right here. Let me see if I can write it in black and you could still see it. I'll do it in purple. All right, so here are two triangles. I'm going to kind of zoom in so you can see it a little better. Here are two triangles. My congruency statement is triangle ABE is congruent to triangle DBC. They're telling me it's congruent, and I'm going to label A, B, C, D, E. All right, so they're telling me two sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent. So I'm going to label them. Here's two sides and a congruent angle. Remember, vertical angles are congruent. So looking at this is a side angle side triangle. How do I know it's a side angle side? Here's my side. Here's my angle, and here's my other side. And it's also congruent to this one, side, angle, side. They're telling me they're congruent by giving me my congruency statement. I already know whether they're giving me these signs or not. We have to know by now vertical angles are always congruent. So if they're not giving you these, let's say that these little white lines were erased. Let me get a smaller eraser. Let's say that this wasn't here and they just gave it to us like this. You have to know by now, we should know that because they're vertical angles, they are congruent. So using chapter 5 and moving on with chapter 5, you have to know that vertical angles are congruent because it's not always going to give you these little symbols right here for my angles. Okay. So the order does matter. Again, side, angle, side. Here's my angle, side, angle, side. Here's my angle, and they're telling me that they're congruent. So this is how you're finding a side, angle, side. It has to be side first, then your angle, then your side. If they decided to put the angles here, it is not side, angle, side anymore. It would be something different. Okay, so you have to make sure it's going in that specific order, side, angle, side. All right, next. State which congruency method can be used to prove the triangles are congruent. If none, state NC. All right, so let us figure it out whether it's side, angle, side, or none. Okay. So if we're looking at these, you really have to kind of look at them. What do we know? They're telling us that these are congruent. So there's my side. Here's my angles. We cannot assume that this side is congruent. Okay, so side, angle, I can't assume that these are congruent here. But I do know that these lines right here are congruent because they're sharing the side. Okay, they're sharing your side. When you're sharing a side, we can automatically say they're congruent. But looking at this, it's not side, angle, side. If it was, it would be side, angle, side, but they're not giving me this angle. So this would be considered angle, side, side. So for this one, it would be NC. Not congruent. Okay. It's not because it's considered angle side side, which there is no angle side side. That is not a congruency form, so you cannot use that. So this is not including angle. Let me scoot this over. Okay, that one is no. So let's look at this one. They're giving me, yes.
You teach the same thing like 6 times a day.
So looking at this one, I have my side. I have my angle. And because they're sharing this side, is this congruent? Yes. So hold on. Looking at this one, this side is congruent. So would this be considered a side angle side triangle? Yes, it would.
But it doesn't show that there's a right angle on the other one.
Oh, but it doesn't have to because they're already showing me that these two angles are congruent. So I have my side right here, angle, and then because they're sharing this, it is congruent. So side, angle, side. So this one it's going to be yes. side, angle, side. Okay, it's reflexive. Again, showing you I have my side, I have my angle, and because they're sharing a side, it's going to be congruent. You cannot assume they're congruent if they're not being shared. They have to share it in order to be congruent. So side, angle, side. So looking at C, would this be considered a side, angle, side triangle?
Yes.
Okay, so I have my side here. My angles, these angles, are they congruent? Why are we saying no? Good, because they have a different number of lines. So these two are not congruent. So I'm going to write not congruent. They have a different number of lines. But I do know that my vertical angles are congruent. However, is there anywhere else on here that I could prove another side is congruent? No. So this one is also NC. Okay, this one's also NC. Looking at D, is this considered a side, angle, side?
Yes.
Yes. Where's my other side?
It's the middle line.
It's the middle line, yes, because it's a shared side.
What does MC stand for?
Not congruent. Not congruent. NC is not congruent.
NCL.
So looking at this one is yes. This one is side, angle, side. And if we kind of looked at it, it's the same as B. The sides are reflexive. It's the same. It's side, angle, side. So it's yes. And then looking at E, is there anywhere here that's showing me my sides are congruent?
Yes.
My sides.
Oh, no.
No, so this is NC. Okay, this one would be angle, angle, angle. All my angles are congruent, but they're not showing me any sides. Example 2, is there enough information to prove that the triangles are congruent? If there is, state the postulate or theorem. So, looking at this, they're specifically talking about two triangles. So looking here, I have more than two. All right, there are, like I said, more than two triangles here, but I'm going to highlight the ones they want us to look at. So it's ABE. So ABE right here. We're looking at this triangle. And then they also want us to see if it's congruent to CBD. So this triangle right here. Oop, I kind of erased the other one. Okay, so they're overlapping and we're trying to state if these triangles are congruent. So I'm actually gonna draw them separate because it kind of looks weird if I highlight it. So I have let me do it in white. ABE right here. And then I'm gonna put CBD over here. So A, B, E, and I'm labeling everything they gave me. They're telling me that these are congruent and this is congruent. And then they're stating C, B, E. This is congruent and these are congruent. So looking at this triangle, also notice the top of this triangle over here. It's telling me that these two are congruent, but the middle is not. So would this be considered a side angle side triangle? All right, if I were to take these two and kind of split them. This is congruent and this is congruent, but it's also sharing this part. So I could just go ahead and continue and complete those. So this would be considered a side angle side triangle. I have my sides that are being shared, my sides that are congruent, and because of this right here at the top, these two are sharing this and the sides are congruent, that means the entire angle would be congruent for these. So this would be considered a side angle side triangle.
We have a quiz on this in 2 days.
Yeah.
In 2 days?
Reflexive angles, and it's side angle side. All right, looking at example number 3, it says state a third congruence. You would need to prove that the triangles are congruent. So they're giving us information. Like I said, since the beginning of the year, labeling is key. So I want you guys to try and label your sides. They're giving me 2 sides, and then you need to identify what is my third congruency to make this triangle side angle side. So go ahead and label these. When I say label, I mean show your congruency marks. So it's telling me that ST is congruent to YZ, so show me that. And then RS is congruent to XY, show me that. And then what is missing in order for this to be a side angle side triangle. So it's just a matter of putting your little tick marks and your congruency mark for an angle. It's basically asking where would you put that angle mark, okay? All right, looking at this one, I'm gonna go ahead and label what you should have labeled. I'm gonna kind of highlight it. So in blue, you should have had ST is congruent to YZ. That's the first one you should have had. And then the next one is RS is congruent to XY. Where would I put my angle mark? S and Y. Okay, it has to be side, angle, side. So if I decided to put my angles here, it would be angle, side, side, and we can't have that. That never works. If I were to put it here, it would be angle, angle, side. I couldn't have that. And they want me to make it side, angle, side. So it has to be where my S is, and it has to be where my T is. So angle S is congruent to angle Y, and that makes it a side, angle, side triangle. Okay, I'm proving they're congruent, and that's how I'm proving that they're congruent using that angle. So side, angle, side. You guys do have proofs on your homework. You will have proofs on the test. So looking at this one, obviously you're not going to have to fill in all the information. You will have like a type of fill in the blank one. But look at the information they're giving you. Always label. Okay, so the given information is that BC is congruent to DA, which they marked for us. So BC right here is congruent to DA. And then BC is parallel to AD. Okay, we should know now we have 2 parallel lines cut by a transversal. So here are my 2 parallel lines right here. And this is my transversal that's cutting my 2 parallel lines. So looking at the first set of information, it's specifically talking about the angles. Please try and follow along because you guys will have proofs. It's not going to be a complete fill in the blank like this, but you will have to obviously match them and plug in what you have. So this is stating, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this one. BCA, angle BCA is congruent to DAC. So we're specifically talking about this angle, and then we're specifically talking about angle A. So these angles right here, can somebody tell me what would these angles be considered? Okay, but that's not what they're called. Looking at these. So kind of on the right track. Remember, I have parallel lines
Vertical line?
cut by a transversal. So parallel lines cut by a transversal. We did these a while ago.
Is this like exterior?
Okay, yes, somewhere on the right track. So here's my two parallel lines.
Oh, are they interiors?
They're interior, but what are they?
Alternate and
Good. So my first one, because I'm specifically talking about that angle, is going to be alternate interior angles theorem. But you could just write alternate interior angles. That's fine. So I'm labeling as I'm going on. I labeled that my angles are congruent. And now they're telling me AC is congruent to CA. We've covered these. What kind of property of equality is this?
congruent.
So we did reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. Which one is this?
Transitive.
It's not transitive because transitive you're getting rid of what's in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Symmetric.
Okay, it's not symmetric. It's reflexive. Yes, you're flipping it. Remember, like a reflection. You're a line of reflection. So this one's going to be, I'm also going to label it. AC is congruent to CA. So they're talking about this angle right here. This side, this side. This is reflexive property of equality. And now I'm proving that the triangles are congruent by what? I'll write two lines on here. So looking at it, I need to figure out, they're giving me side, angle, side, and they're also telling me side, angle, side. So these are both congruent by side, angle, side, congruency theorem. Okay, so it's just a matter of identifying information and stating what they are. So this is a side, angle, side triangle. I proved that they're congruent by side, angle, side. Any questions on this one?
Is there gonna be